toll manufacturing done, but the most difficult thing is, of course, to get the right guy in, make him or her perform, and then most importantly, retain and see that they grow. So all three of the people in this event come with a fabulous background, and I think we will have a great session ahead. A little bit about me before I start the session. I'm also very similar to the three speakers. I'm from IIT Varanasi, now those days called BHUIT, and then I'm Calcutta, worked for a few years in NOSL, which was then managed by Shell, moved on to be on my own, then teamed up with Murli 30 years ago, 26 years ago, sorry. I know him for 36, so it's more than that, 30 years now, yeah. And I run the group now. Most of the businesses report into me, except for executive search or a couple of them to Murli. Some interesting experiences, two of them I would like to mention. One is going online. In 2000, we went online, Murli and I co-founded a company. And today we are very proud partners of many of the multilateral agencies around the world, World Bank, WHO, World Bank in multiple countries, UNICEF, UNDP, where we work extensively on capacity building of people. And those are government staff mostly. And then TMI E2E, which we again co-founded in 2011 in skills, where we are very proud partners of corporate India in two ways. One is we take in new fresh joiners, skill them and bring them up to speed. Again, we get humongous amount of data here based on their performance, monthly performance data we get, and we manage the analytics around it and then figure out what are the next steps that we can do. We also very large skill partner with many of the IT majors in India like Microsoft, SAP, Capgemini, where we take youngsters, about roughly 10,000 of them every year, and we groom them into jobs. So a lot of experience around the analytics space. And when we have done that is where we've discovered this huge variance in sales performance. Most of our business is in sales, the training piece, the hiring piece, the onboarding piece. I think about roughly 70% of PMI's turnover comes from the FOS and the FLM. And that's where when we started analyzing, we realized that there is a huge variance. And we may have hired the guy from the same location, from similar background, but there is a variance in performance. We may have trained them in the same cohort. There is a variation in performance. They take longer to reach productivity. So we've been studying this for a while now, especially in the banking and the financial sector side, and to some extent in FMCG. We thought most field force numbers in India would be the FMCG and FMCD business, and we wanted to trigger this session. So three key questions in the mind, which I would like to pose before our speakers. And then for each of them, we have shared some questions in advance. To set context, I think the first most important question is, can we really model performance of frontline sales staff and their supervisors? Is this really feasible? Are they, will they fall into some pattern that we can do? The second one is, okay, if we can do that, how do we identify root causes for poor performance, right? So what is poor performance and how do we find the root causes? And if we do find them, can we eliminate all of them or most of them, and how do you do that? And the third piece of it is, of course, to do all this, we need analytics. So what are the analytics that are possible? What should we be doing? What sort of insights can we get? And what models can be developed? So broadly, these are some of the key questions that we think, even if we can start off on answering some of these today, I think that'll go a long way to help organizations in FMCG and FMCD space address this issue of performance variance. We have a very interesting insight in one of the projects that we did, where when we tried to look at I think Murli might speak more about it, try to look at who's a good boss. The counterintuitive insight that we got was not the guy who's performing, on annual numbers, but is the person who has the least variance amongst his one downs. If a boss can manage the variance amongst his one downs, then he's more likely to get performance going. So things like that, I'm sure, are possible. And that's what we want to hear. So I'm going to start off with Murli. And Murli is, of course, an old friend, but otherwise a little bit about him: an alumnus of IIT Madras and IMA, 4 decades of experience, of which 33 years as an entrepreneur. I hope I got that right, Murli, or maybe 36 years as an entrepreneur. Sorry, because 3 years before this also, all right? He's the founder chairman of TMI, also the chairman of FICCI Telangana State Council and member of the National Executive Board. Murli is very active there and tries to help the corporate sector, push some of their agenda towards the government side, on policymaker side. He's also been very active on the MSME National Board for a while with the Ministry of MSME, and now is a member of expert committee of group of ministers of government in India. Murli is extremely passionate about 3 things. What I know of him: one is travel, 2 is rum on the rocks. Of course, now with age, he's mellowed down to, I'm sure he dilutes it with Coke. And then he reads a lot, and binge watching. I think that's 4, right? He's extremely passionate about HR. He's a dreamer. If you have heard the statement that don't fix what's not broken, Murli will anyway go ahead and fix it, because he always aspired to have a better state for even what is already working well. So he's that sort of a person. So I would like to invite him to come on first and address us on some of these questions, right? What are some of the techniques that we can use to analyze performance in terms of visualization, perhaps, or statistical, whatever? What is it that we can use? What sort of insights can we get, especially counterintuitive insights, if we can generate? How do we get those? And what sort of parameters we can look to model FOS and FLM performance, that is feet on street and first level manager? And then can we really model performance as a mathematical equation that truly makes sense? So these are some of the questions to you, Murli. Maybe you can adopt some, you can expand on some. I believe you have a presentation to make. So you have about 20 minutes. I'll call out time once 18 minutes is over. Over to you, Murli.
Yeah, I think Ravi, you have to stop sharing. Yeah.
I did.
Can you see my screen now? Is my screen visible, Ravi?
Yes, TMD. Yes, TMD.
Okay. First of all, thank you, Ravi. I think that a very generous introduction. I think the age 40 years old is not correct. It's actually